Hello everyone, my name's Mono, and I've been involved with digital art and online art spaces for over a decade. I've gotten from being a total beginner artist to a somewhat seasoned but not pro artist, and a lot of my journey was documented online. Well, except for when I nuked my first DeviantArt, and then my first Twitter, and then my second DeviantArt, and now we're here. MonoX Lost Media goes crazy. Anyway, today's little list/ramble is going to draw, no pun intended, from all of my experiences with online art communities and fandom spaces. But I won't stall you any longer. Let's get started.
I found a Chaos Emerald.
Don't touch it!
Pet peeve number 1. We're gonna start with the less controversial ones. Bullying child artists. It's sad, but the internet really likes to bully beginner artists. It's a huge reason I stay off of platforms like TikTok. A lot of the time, these beginner artists are children, and it's usually pretty obvious to the point where I feel like a lot, not all, but a lot of people only feign ignorance when they get called out for it. This doesn't happen as much as it used to compared to a few years ago, but it's especially crazy when I see people like around my age or even older going out of their way to harass children and leave crappy comments on their art. Like, bro, go put in some more hours at your 10 minimum wage jobs. Leave the children alone. Let them be happy, unlike you. It's also not any better when I see like teens and other kids bullying these artists. Do your homework for your 10 classes. I don't know. I think we can all agree it's wrong. Heck, I even have a personal experience with this. Let's just keep it simple and say it had something to do with the game Animal Jam. One poorly traced image of the Animal Jam wolf and a bunch of grown adults. Yes, I went back and I checked years later. No, even back then. These were grown adult DeviantArt users who were insulting and threatening an 8-year-old fetus mono. Like, honestly typical for DeviantArt though. I mean, who's surprised? Okay, my next artist pet peeve also relates to age and skill, but in a different way. Although the art community isn't always the nicest to beginner artists, I've noticed the art community has some weird tendencies when it comes to putting young, prodigy-like artists on a pedestal, and tearing down older folks who are just getting into art. Some people might think it must be awesome for that shining star young artist to get all that attention, but personally, I don't envy prodigy types at all. It's always rubbed me the wrong way when I see a lot of people idolizing a young and very talented artist, because it's almost inevitable that prodigy, who's usually anywhere from like 10 to 14 years old, a literal child, will make a few genuine mistakes due to like just their youth and inexperience. Whether those mistakes are with people or with art, it's not uncommon for me to see young prodigies who were like held up as this like bastion of like creativity and skill one week, and then next week they're suddenly being thrown under the bus and bashed by the entire art community because of basic mistakes. Especially when you factor in like mental health struggles, which nearly every artist I know of significantly struggles with. Like, I challenge you to find artists who are not mentally ill. It's more difficult than you would think. But it creates a lot of really messy situations. We've seen young, mentally ill artists grow up on the internet with a lot of eyes on them. I mean, think of like animation meme YouTubers like Birdie or Jack. I'm not going to go into the whole City Bear situation. That's horrible. But my point is, we've seen young people get a lot of eyes on them at a young age, and it usually does not end well. The other side of this are the older beginner artists. Of course, beginners tend to get crap the community anyway, but adult beginners get the next level of it. I just feel bad when I see someone who's clearly trying to do something with art. Maybe they don't have all the time in the world to practice, maybe it's not something they're trying to get serious about, like maybe it's just for fun. But they post that art online and they get bashed and have tons of insults thrown their way because people think, oh, this person's 30, how is their art so bad? Because they're new. It doesn't take a genius. Age doesn't equal experience. It's just annoying seeing people being purposefully obtuse just so they can justify being rude to others. Pet peeve 3. Backhanded, guilt-tripping, quote-unquote compliments, and generally poor etiquette towards artists. I believe I've gone over this in a different video, but here we are, we're going over it again. So, to be fair, not everyone has been in art spaces forever, and I do understand that. But oh my gosh, I really don't like when people compliment an art piece just to follow it up by saying that their own art sucks, or how it must be so nice that the artist is more capable of drawing than them. I'm gonna be blunt. To people who leave comments like that on people's art, it's scummy. It doesn't matter that you complimented them at that point because you invalidated that sentiment the second you made it all about you. Sorry, not sorry. You don't know the artist. Just because they can put out amazing works doesn't mean that they aren't struggling too. And I especially hate the whole "you're more capable than me" thing. Like, do you know how many artists are genuinely mentally and physically disabled? How many of them physically struggle to create, but do it anyway because they're that determined and dedicated to their work? Like, we should be celebrating. In my opinion, we should be, uplifting these artists who fucking fight every day. But, like, there's artists who are paralyzed, blind, missing limbs, severely mentally ill. It's not a competition. But my point is that anyone can make art. And I do know what it's like to compare yourself to other artists, to dislike or even hate your own work because you feel inferior. But you know what? That's a mentality problem. It's your problem. You've got to figure out how to reframe that because it's just not gonna help you or anyone else for that matter. A bad mentality also just is never an excuse to take it out on artists who never did anything to wrong you. Comments like that, and I know people don't always say these things with that intention in mind, but they do bring other people down. And hey, if you didn't know, now you know. The same goes for backhanded compliments. I'm just going to use this as an example, but something I see really often with ship art, shipping two characters or more together from a certain series. Or heck, there's even crack ships where they take entirely different fandoms and stuff. I don't know. Shipping is crazy. But something I see really often with ship art is people who don't ship the same pairing as that artist going, oh, I mean, this is cute, but this ship is so lame. Brother. I mean, yeah, that's your opinion, and it's fine to feel that way, but sometimes your opinion doesn't need to be expressed. I won't lie. Especially if it's just negative for no reason. And I've even seen ship artists express just how frustrating it gets when they get comments like that all the time. Entire art pieces will get flooded with people saying that a ship sucks, and there's not even a moral reason to have an issue with it. Or comments wishing that the artist would just draw a different ship instead. Oh, sorry, I keep stopping my recording. Guys, allergy season sucks. I don't know. Some people get really entitled over artists. Not all art or content in general is going to be catered to you. And it's not individual creators' responsibility to give you what you want. At some point, You gotta learn to scroll away. There's so many artists out there. Find the ones who create what you do like and support them, because I'm sure they freaking need it. Instead of trying to force random artists to fit a mold.
I've come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's a bitch.
Pet peeve number 4. Commissioning an artist for something they don't draw, and artists being unwilling to disclose whether they can or won't draw something. So this next one, obviously, it's a two-way street. And I've experienced both sides of it, both from a client of my own and as a client for other artists. There are a few factors that contribute to each side. From the artist side, or I guess in an artist's defense, not every client reads an artist's TOS or really checks what kind of work they do before trying to commission them. Or some people have characters that lack high-quality references, or are just visually very difficult to decipher. Some people aren't the best at describing what they want, which can lead to them being dissatisfied with what you make for them. And on the client side, in their defense, sometimes artists are unwilling or unable to draw what you want, but won't speak up about it, whether that's out of fear or because of money. Sometimes artists get overconfident, only realizing once they start a commission that they're struggling to draw your character. This has honestly happened to me multiple times, I won't lie. But do I not draw the person's character? No, I get over it. I keep drawing the dang character till I can give them something decent. And I will say, just like some clients, some artists aren't always paying attention to the details of a commission, or they forget things. I know that I've accidentally misread or forgotten certain details of commissions in the past, and thankfully, I work through Ko-Fi, so it keeps like notes on everything, so I can usually just go back and refresh, or I can just ask the client. But yeah, I've definitely had to like course correct and fix pieces because I just genuinely forgot something, so I mean, it happens. It's really the best solution for this pet peeve is clear communication. Artists should clearly state what they can and can't draw in a place where all prospective clients can easily find it. Clients should inform themselves about these boundaries and familiarize themselves with the art styles an artist works in before commissioning them. Does the artist do a lot of action? Then they might not be the best choice for ship art. Does the artist do a lot of like still poses where there's not really a lot going on motion-wise? Then they might not be very good at action poses. And that's not to say that like artists can't do other things, it's just you might want to take a look at their examples before you go, ooh, give me this like hard-ass anime style fight scene from an artist who only draws like Sonic and Shadow kissing. I don't know, just putting it out there. Artists should be communicating if they can't draw something a client wants, and clients should be stating what they want in a commission. Reaching out to an artist before handing them their money is a good practice. You should do that. I highly recommend giving them as many details as possible, like upfront in your first message if possible, so they can get a better grasp of what you want. And that way they can go from there and figure out if it's feasible. I'll admit, sometimes people approach me with very vague ideas of what they want, and I don't always respond because I kinda chicken out. I'm just genuinely not sure if I can satisfy someone if nearly everything is left up in the air. Artists can do a lot, for sure, but we aren't mind readers, and it is tricky to make something that perfectly aligns with somebody else's vision. There's almost always going to be a variation of some sort. But we should move on.
Eggman Super Sucky Machine!
Next pet peeve, and final one for this video, as I'm going to rant about it the longest. This one may be a little controversial. It's related to commissions. Again, but more specifically, emergency commissions. This is more of a newer issue I've seen crop up, but I don't like artists who are always promoting emergency commissions. Full stop. Like 6 months out of the year at least. Hey, before you type a paragraph in the comments, hear me out. I specifically don't like when these artists are the same ones who constantly post and low-key flex about how they're going to all these commissions, expensive events, commissioning other artists, and buying tons of merch. Which, sorry not sorry, broke math ain't adding up. I've seen a boatload of excuses for this behavior, including scapegoating neurodivergent people, which is crazy. Like, I don't know, if you need to have emergency commissions open 365 and beg for money for months on end to keep up your expensive lifestyle, I think you've just got to admit that you aren't managing your finances properly, and you're making it everybody else's problem. And to elaborate on neurodivergence being used as an excuse, some of these artists, when they get called out on their constant flexing while claiming to be in financial peril, will blame everything on being autistic or having ADHD or whatever. Neurodivergent people are apparently fully incapable of managing their finances and don't need to take accountability when they spend excessively on things they don't need. This is totally not a crappy excuse that pushes the narrative that we can't be independent or responsible for our actions. It's just so frustrating. I don't like this thing a lot of other openly neurodivergent artists do, where they'll advocate for our autonomy, but when they do something wrong and receive consequences for justified reasons, suddenly autism really is something that makes us incapable of learning to be better. It's just hypocritical, and it really rubs me the wrong way. And for clarity, I'm just trying to be balanced here. There are some niche exceptions to this whole debacle, but the majority of artists who abuse emergency commissions do not fall under that. Some people do work conventions as a large source of their income, so obviously those folks have reason to be at conventions all the time. It's their job. Same goes for artists, content creators, or industry folks who are popular enough to get invited to conventions by organizers. A lot of income in those fields is unstable. I'm aware of that. But most artists pulling this scheme aren't the ones who vend at conventions, and even fewer have the status to be invited to conventions regularly as a guest. Most artists who open emergency commissions are not lying. So please just don't go around assuming everyone who opens them is lying. That's not true. A lot of people are genuinely struggling right now. Emergency commissions can be super freaking helpful for people in a tight spot. I opened them before myself when my financial situation was worse than usual. Thanks to people's kindness, I was able to feed myself and have a little bit more security than I would have otherwise. But I think at a certain point, some artists aren't actually struggling to have money. They're just unwilling to cut off some of their mountain of unnecessary expenses and take responsibility for them like an adult. And they're saying that they need emergency commissions because it works. I will admit, I'd never gotten that many commissions before at once until I announced that I was in an emergency. People are more likely to buy out of sympathy, and it really upsets me to see people abusing that kindness. And this isn't to say that you can't open commissions for a specific reason, but if you want V-Bucks or Lego sets, just say that. I have way more respect for someone who says they're opening commissions to save up for something they don't need to survive over someone who lies about needing emergency funds for living expenses or medical bills just to turn around and flex all the money they spent on Pokemon cards or whatever. But with that being said, those were 5 of my artist pet peeves. Of course, if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment if you'd like to see another. I can't believe I'm saying this because last video we had just hit 1.3k, but we're trying to hit 1.5k now, baby. Hey, maybe we can hit it before the end of the year. That'd be cool. Alright. Well, we'll see. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!